Good morning and welcome to Business Unusual. We are excited to serve you this morning and help you with making the most of your prospecting activity in 2021. My name is Brendan Filbert. I am managing partner with SalesWorks. And my business every day is working with organizations and people that have a goal of reaching their next perfect opportunity, whether that is a great prospect that they are introduced to, or whether it is their next career opportunity. So I'm delighted to share information with you today and introduce to you my co-presenter, Chris Motley.
Hi everybody, I'm Chris Motley, the owner of Motley Creations, where we make you look good. And what does that mean? Well, what we do is managed marketing services. So small and medium-sized businesses with big goals, I help them find the right size solutions to execute on their marketing strategy and develop the brand and image they need to have. And I'm the muscle here today. So
he's the one that actually keeps the tech wheels from falling off, because if it were left up to me, it probably would not be pretty. All right, so I want to kick things off with just some ideas about what you can be doing this month at the beginning of the year in order to make the most of your business development opportunities. Now, when I'm talking about business development opportunities, what I am not talking about is creating another one more tactic that's randomly looking for a strategy. And that tends to be where a lot of us end up accidentally. So you may attend a meeting like this and walk away thinking, oh, that's something I should try in my business. And then you go try it. And the problem with trying it is if we're trying something, normally we don't give it enough effort, and we're not consistent or disciplined enough for a long period of time to know whether or not it's going to work. So what I want to share with you every month, we are going to focus on core strategies that lead to business. And those core strategies that we're going to share with you are focusing on creating referrals and word of mouth. I don't know, let's do just a really quick poll here. I want you to chat into the questions and let me know whether or not cold calling ranks as one of your most favorite activities of all time. So we'll take just a second. Anybody here? Love that?
don't
Anyone?
do it. LOL, don't do it. Slip my wrist. No.
Okay. All right then, you're in the right room.
Black.
Because what you are not going to hear me tell you to see more people, make more calls. We're going to be talking about where do you have the maximum impact, and that is through your relationships. And this is where you can really maximize the investment of whatever it is that you're doing, whether it's the money that you're spending on communication campaigns, or I'm always looking at the ROE instead of just the ROI. So the ROE is return on effort. So we're going to talk about three primary areas that really are avenues for you to leverage and grow your business and have some quick wins. Because I don't know about you, based on everything that's happened this week, I'm needing to see some good stuff happen. And the good stuff that I need to be a part of, I really want to see an impact made in people's lives. And I want to see change happen. And I want to be a part of that. And I think there's a lot of us are in kind of that same boat. We're all looking for opportunities to reach and connect and build relationships. And Bill made a phenomenal point earlier about he's the guy that loves to go have coffee and hang out at happy hour and get to know people, and we're just not there right now. And I don't know when we're going to get back to it. But the point that I want you to dive into is, which relationships do we establish and make a priority of where we focus our time and effort? And the big thing that I want to share with you is that my philosophy and everything that I'm talking to you about today, there's a lot of you that have been in business as long, if not longer, than I have. And you are very good at business development. And I totally understand that I may be sharing stuff with you that you know that it's what you can do in order to get your business where you want it to go, but you may have forgotten, or it may be something that isn't a part of your regular habits, or maybe for whatever reason, the business that I'm encouraging you to go pursue it may not have been in your niche, or the strategy may be different today than it was last year, and I can promise you it is. So I just want you to take the information that I'm giving you today and think about how will these concepts apply to what you're focusing on and what you're going to do next week in your prospecting. So the core relationships that we want to focus on today and throughout this month, we want to pay attention to our top clients. And we're going to do this through a couple of different ways, and I'm going to talk about it here in just a few minutes. We're going to segment our clients into basically 3 categories. And stay with me on this. I don't have a slide for it. I'm going to talk through it. We have 3 core groups of clients. We have our A group of clients that I'm going to call them your platinum relationships. These are the folks that are priceless to your organization and to you. They are the clients that they know you and they trust you. They follow your advice. They do what you recommend. They have great results, and then they tell all your friends or tell all their friends. So think about your platinum relationships. The next category is that emerging top client, the one that's not there yet. Maybe you just started with them. Maybe they're a client that you did a piece of business with 6 years ago or 6 months ago, but it hasn't gone any further than that. So those relationships we call our gold clients. And that is another area that we're going to talk a little bit about. How do you focus on those relationships? The third category of your clients and your relationships, we have what I consider your silver clients. And now the silver clients, those are the folks that they're shiny and they look attractive when you first bring them on and they're new relationships. But in the grand scheme of things, they don't bring as much value. And the reason is they keep you at arm's length with what they engage with and how they lean on you, and also what they share about working with you. So one of the first tasks that's really good for you to do is identify out of your entire client base, what percentage of relationships do you have that are platinum? What percentage do you have that are gold? And what percentage do you have that are silver relationships? And now let's just do a really quick poll before we dive into this, because I'd like to know predominantly where are your relationships? Which one of those 3 categories? A, B, or C? So let's take just a second. Chris, would you add anything to the client profiling?
Sorry, I was on mute. We have an A, a B coming through. We have no, not at this particular juncture. I was a couple of A's. Come on.
So we got a lot of folks then that have platinum relationships, which is phenomenal.
Right.
Love hearing that. Okay, so then the next question that I have for you is your relationship goal for 2021 to double that client base? So think about what happens in your business if every one of your platinum relationships introduces you to someone else that looks just like them. What would that do for you? Think about that for just a second. And then the other avenue is, so we have one of our participants today that was talking about how business is changing a bit right now. And it used to be you could engage with an organization that was a little bit larger, and there was a natural point of entry and a natural progression of that relationship based on how they knew you and how they had done business with someone like you before. The problem is it goes back to that same conversation that we started with earlier. We do what we're comfortable with, and many people just aren't comfortable yet with these virtual platforms. So think about if maybe your opportunity for 2021 is to create that entry point into your business or service that would allow more gold clients to get started with you, and then you can onboard them and create that referral alchemy where you turn gold into platinum. But it's an opportunity for them to, again, engage and get started. And then the other question that I have for you is your best opportunity potentially through your referral partnerships? So do you have consistent relationships that you are top of mind with that regularly introduce you to your platinum prospect? And that is a yes or no question. Let's do just a really quick check-in. Or is that something that you've recognized is a fantastic opportunity to pursue in 2021?
Got about a 50-50 response now. Some yes, some no. Oh, yes is taking over a little bit more.
Okay, so we've got relationships and we recognize that that's an area of opportunity. Okay, now the other avenue that I've got to ask you about, are you active with social media and on social platforms? Are you regularly engaging in conversations just like the one we're in today, or is this part of your New Year's resolution? And when I talk about engaging in social media, I'm talking about doing more than just showing up. We've got some phenomenal networkers on our call today. And there are a lot of you that have probably, you have far surpassed Chris and I with networking. And you've recognized that networking is about not only going to the event, but actively engaging, providing value to the other members, making connections, engaging and building and following up with relationships after the event. So that's what social media represents, is that exact same opportunity for you to really dive in and build some phenomenal relationships. So the challenge with what I've just shared, this is where if you focus on these 4 main areas in your business, there probably are very few goals that you would not be able to reach in terms of revenue creation. But the challenge is there's only so much of you and you only have so many hours in the day. So as we're moving forward during our conversation today, I want you to think of 1 or 2 action items that you will take out of today. And when we're wrapping up our session, I want you to share back with us what those action items are. Because what I have learned through doing these presentations, I've been coaching since 2000, so I've been at it for a while. And Chris has been at this for a while too. And I think we both learned that if you don't commit to a small action and forward movement, what will come out of today is you will have come out of it with either a, yeah, that was fun and I learned something, don't know what I'll do with it, or a, you know, that made an impact and I'm going to take action and I'm going to go make money next week. And we want you to be in that latter category. No matter what happens, whether we're just friends after this or whether we work together professionally at some point, I want you to walk away with impact. And that's how we can make it happen.
Oh, yeah.
Now, we're going to talk about which one do you want to focus on. So remember I told you we went through those 4 key areas. And if you focus on all of them, you're going to end up probably with that doggone linoleum and you'll never get any traction. So do you want to focus in Q1 on doubling your platinum clients and leveraging those relationships? Do you want to create an entry point for gold clients in your business or expand your current gold clients and turn them into platinum? Or do you want to focus on those referral partners and creating emotional equity? So A, B, or C. So take just a minute and chat in with us. Where do you need to spend your time?
Got some A's, got some B's, and a C. So it's kind of across the board there.
Okay. All right. Whichever one is your core strategy, we're going to talk about all three. And whichever one is your core strategy that you want to focus on, remember, the goal is for you to take the concept that we're talking about today and then think of what action item you are going to implement in your business. All right, so if we're talking about growing those platinum relationships, there is an approach that I love to take when I'm pursuing business through these. And it's the first thing, I want to understand what is available. And cross-selling is something that I think some people are really comfortable with and other people are not. So let me just ask for a second. So ask a question. So when I talk about cross-selling your existing relationships, is this something that you look forward to, or is it something there's a little bit of apprehension around? Do you feel like maybe you're putting relationships at risk?
Oh, God.
So,
Some positive responses here.
okay. And I don't know about you, have you ever been in an organization that your contacts were part of a broader database and somebody else may have called on one of your clients in the past and potentially not represented an opportunity professionally? Maybe it wasn't that relationship wasn't treated as carefully as you would have, and you may have had some damage that came about from it. Have you ever had that happen? Because I got to tell you, I have dealt with baggage there, where I've just gotten to where I'm territorial about my contacts, I'm territorial about my relationships. I have to admit I've been there. And the other side of it is I also have to recognize that if I'm part of a larger organization or I'm working within an organization that needs my services in order to effectively serve the broader client, then I recognize that sometimes that internal sale has to take place before I can get to the client. So, for example, I know I've got people on the call that are working within larger organizations that, so let's say you're a financial advisor, perhaps there's also a P&C division within the organization. Well, you have the opportunity to either become an expert about P&C, or you can leverage internal expertise in order to provide that product knowledge and specific solution provision. And it just makes a lot more sense, I think, for us to look at it from that perspective. So when you're thinking about cross-selling, what you have to do is you have to think about the client as a whole and how do you make sure that you provide just an extraordinary client experience. And one of my suggestions that I'm going to make is that when you're segmenting your client base and you're looking at all of those platinum relationships, I would like for you to make a list of those top clients, and don't start with number 1, okay? Don't do that. Start with number 10 and then do a countdown. So it's 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And approach it from that perspective, because what you will find is the initial conversations you have, they may not always be quite as confident, and you may stumble a little bit as you figure out what questions to ask and how do you really be as helpful as you can be and how do you provide the most value. So start there, work your way up till you get to the top of the list. And the goal is during these conversations, it's not about what you're going to get out of those conversations, it's about what you're going to give. And when I talk about what you're going to give, it's, I want you thinking about it from either you're going to solve problems through either internal services that you can offer, that's that cross-sell, through external relationships, which is referral partner solutions. And I just want you also identifying what should you be doing. So in other words, I want you thinking way out. So think of 6 months or 9 months into 2021. I want you really thinking about where do you need to be going in order to serve your perfect client? And what are they going to need from you based on just everything that's happening right now so that you become their best relationship and their go-to? So I want you to be identifying what those are. So you're not going into them thinking about, I'm going to capture anything. It's I just want to learn. So we think about it like a market research conversation and less about the pressure of trying to sell something. Remember, we want to shift your perspective and make sure that you're where you're comfortable and confident. And I find that with a lot of us, when we put our sales hat on, it doesn't feel authentic or genuine. And I want all of your conversations with your top relationships to be from that genuine, that heart that you have for serving others. And that means that we want to solve problems. And then I also want you to cultivate introductions. And this is something that I find, and I know that at least 3 or 4 people on this call struggle with this particular challenge, is asking for help. And when you're transparent and authentic, part of the human experience is the opportunity to give back. And there's a lot of us that are really good about opening doors and helping others. And we're more than happy to do that. Where we fall down sometimes is with letting others help us. So I want you going into these conversations thinking about how do you make it easy for somebody to help you as well. So when we think about what should that cross-selling experience look like, so what I want you to think about it as is I want you to look at the total relationship opportunity. And in the world of sales, it's often called the wallet share. I like to call it more the potential of the relationship, because to me, customers are so much more than a wallet. They're somebody that I can develop just that deep and abiding relationship with. You know, I've got folks on this call that we've had a relationship for, gosh, we're going on decades with some of us.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, I think, your measure of success is whether or not you've had a long-standing, abiding, and intimate relationship with people where they truly view you as that relationship that's going to bring extraordinary value. So I want you to think about, when you're looking at that cross-selling or cross-serving philosophy, every conversation or interaction that you have with your client, I want you to go into it with a look for at least 2 problems that you can solve. And when I'm talking about problems that you solve, there's, it used to be, there was this philosophy about you don't ever want to do unpaid consulting. And gosh, the challenge with that, with how people are doing business today, is people want the assurance that if they hire you, you really are going to make the impact that they think you are. And in order to do that, we kind of have to demonstrate it. And the way that I love solving problems, that's part of why we're doing these weekly webinars. Mm-hmm. Yes, it's marketing and we're meeting new people, but if we just meet new people and we don't solve problems and make your lives better, then it's a waste of time. So we really have to look at everything we do as how do you solve problems and make a positive impact? And that's the concept of emotional equity that I mentioned a little earlier. So we want to focus on uncovering and solving problems. And then we also want to open doors and make connections, because really it is about what doors can you open, what impact can you make. And in a lot of cases, if I can't serve someone right now, but I introduce them to one of my clients or one of my referral partners, guess who will be doing all of the sales heavy lifting for me? I don't have to do any of it after that point, because my referral relationship or my client is going to make sure that whenever that moment is right for that client to engage with me, they're brought back to me. And I don't have to do any of that heavy lifting or follow up at that point. And there's really no convincing that takes place, because that's been done for me by that influential partner that's already there. So that's another perspective that I'd like for you to shift just a little bit when you're thinking about solving problems, because a lot of times we think about putting people in our pipeline and just continuing to follow up. And it becomes this, I don't know about you, but if anybody reaches out to me with a, hey, just checking in, I'm not super excited about making that call back. I think it makes a lot more sense to reach back out to people that are actively engaged in trying to help me. And so whenever I reach out to somebody, I want to make sure that I'm either bringing them a resource, an idea, a solution, or a connection that will be highly valuable. And I end up having very effective follow-up conversations because of that. So those are just a few ideas when you think about cross-serving. Those are some things that you can do. Now, the thing that we were talking about also is, what is there that you can offer that would be something that is a limited time opportunity for someone to engage with you? So for example, what you may do, like I've got several folks who are in financial services on the call right now. So what may make sense for you is to reach out to do a January strategic planning conversation, or a January understanding of resources and priorities. And there's a lot that can happen at this particular time of year, just based on the fact that we are just days into a brand new year, and people are excited about the potential that is present in January. So what I'm going to suggest is that when you reach out for these conversations, you do it with something that is time specific. So for example, you may hear a lot of conversations around the new administration and the emphasis of everything that's going on politically. So perhaps that opens a door for you to have a limited time offer or an opportunity to engage. So the more you can create something that lets them engage at a moment in time, that creates that sense of urgency or scarcity that is a powerful mental trigger in that buyer psychology. And I want you really thinking about what can you create and what can you do there? And that's another way that you can really both create an entry point for those gold clients, as well as offer those platinum clients an opportunity to cross refer you. Because when you create this offer and you share it with your platinum clients, instead of just asking them, who do you know who would benefit from knowing me, you can say, are there companies that you know of right now that are in the XYZ industry that the business owners are trying to figure out the answer to this question? And when we're thinking about the offer, that's how specific you want it to get. Because when you get super specific, that helps people really narrow their focus and do all that heavy lifting and qualification for you. So they're bringing you customers that have the means, money, and motivation to engage now. So, and then the other side of growing these clients that I want to throw out as, again, more ideas, is think about an onboarding process or a buyer journey that has no end. So as long as this relationship is with you, you continue to expand and offer value and serve them. And it's a natural evolution. So let's say that at some point you have sold them everything that you have, they're buying all of your services. Well, now this is when we immediately want to bring in all of those referral relationships and just build this hedge around your clients. So for example, if I'm working with a company, I want to make sure that every strategic advisor of that business leader I'm putting in place, and we're collaborating then to serve that client so that it is as streamlined a process as it can possibly be. So that's another shift in perspective that you can have about the buyer journey. And then, of course, remember that they hang out with other people that look just like them. So we consistently want to be building that emotional equity and cultivating introductions to other people who are in that same spot. Okay, Chris, what would you add to this?
Well, I think that you covered a lot of it really well, and I love to go backwards a little bit. I love the scarcity thing because we had spoken to some people earlier on the call that were maybe coming up with some objections, or people are in that holding pattern. And so if you can come up with a kind of a limited time to engage, or a scarcity kind of a thing to kind of close those doors, right? To get people moving and out of that holding pattern. I think that's a really important thing to do.
And remember, if they click the button that either opts in to downloading a limited time white paper or sitting in a session just like you're sitting in right now, the thing is what happened in your brain when you clicked the registration process for today's session, that's the same action that takes place in your brain when you make a decision, you're going to follow my advice. And that same decision, if you follow my advice, leads to you also buying my services.
Right.
So it's a natural part of that psychological buyer journey. So I've just given you several examples of ways that you can create those entry points or entry offers. It doesn't have to be anything big, because remember, you're after that psychological trigger happening. And we actually, Chris and I did, I don't even remember which session it was. I can send it out along with this recording link over the weekend. But there's a session that we did that talked about the buyer journey and psychological triggers
Right.
that happen. And the more you understand what today's buyer is thinking and how they're navigating their process, the more you can serve them where and how they need it.
Right. And the less you'll be kind of held back by your own head trash, which is what they call it in some sales training. Right. And
Absolutely.
yeah, Brendan covered that earlier, and that's so important. Is think about them, not you.
Absolutely. All right. So now let's talk about we've talked about two things. We talked about platinum, we've talked about client relationships and expanding those. Now I want to give you some ideas around identifying those key referral relationships and nurturing those at the beginning of the year. So first question that I want you to do is, do you recognize where you have the potential to lose a client? What if you're going to have a retention issue, what's taking place? Have you asked that question? Because what we have to look at this time of year, your best clients are someone else's best prospects. So do you know what those potential retention issues are? Now, if you don't, these are some questions that you're going to have to ask of your top clients, because there's always something. And I want you to understand what those potential retention issues are. And that's where we want to slot in our referral relationships. So at the beginning of the pandemic, I have been sending out a weekly email newsletter that's a prospecting tip. And their first session of the year, or not of the year, but in March, right after the first shutdown happened, the content that I sent out had absolutely nothing to do with sales training or marketing, anything with my services. It was nothing but immediate resources that business owners and individuals could utilize based on what's happening right now. So I sent out information about available PPP and where do you apply for the pandemic unemployment. And my entire goal, I sent out, it was an email with links to the Kansas the SBC. And I mean, there were so many resources that were in the link. I have to tell you that doing that, and this leads into the solving the most compelling problems. We have to meet people where they are and serve them with what challenges they're experiencing at this moment. And some of these challenges may relate to your services and some of them may not. But your job is they need to view you as the person that they go to with any questions. So when you bring them resources like that, what happened is that one email that I sent had double the open rate of my typical emails that I send out. And, I have a whole lot of folks that will ask me, well, what did that actually bring you in terms of business? And that one email didn't bring me anything. But what it did is my open rates have remained 50% higher since that one email went out because I demonstrated what I actually said I'm about. People are so good at saying, I'm all about relationships. And then we go and focus and live a life that's me, 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 me. And my challenge for you is, are you walking your talk? And are you really solving those compelling life challenges that people are experiencing? Or are you just giving it that whole, I'm talking a good game? And that's something that I really want to challenge you with. The other thing I want you to think about is, do you have the potential to create additional streams of income? And this is where, can you create affiliate relationships or potentially resell other services? And I know if we go back to insurance and financial services, that there are a lot of opportunities to monetize a client relationship through cross referrals, if, of course, you're both licensed appropriately so that everything is ethical and above board. But I want you thinking about if there are other opportunities for you to do that in your business. And I know many of you may be coaches or consultants. And what I will challenge you is to identify multiple streams of income that you can create within your base of relationships. And we actually did another session last year, I think it was the middle of the year, where we talked about the different avenues that you can create income from client relationships beyond selling your time. And that's very important. So identify if there are white channel or channel partners that you need to incorporate that can be a shared fee for service. And if it's not appropriate or ethical according to your industry requirements, I mean, I know that there are so many different industry standards. For instance, if you're in financial services, you can only sell products and receive income if certain criteria are met. So I totally get that maybe that reciprocation is not through money, but it's through reciprocity. So in other words, it's I will introduce you to my client base, and I want you to introduce me to yours. So that's the win-win, and how you cultivate and serve one another. Think about if you have one new relationship and they introduce you to all of their platinum clients, and you take that new partner and introduce them to all of your platinum clients. I mean, this is another avenue that you can immediately have a huge bump in your business in Q1. Because again, remember, we want to get to that sale quickly. And oftentimes that's done best through referral partnerships and less through a direct solicitation. So, okay. All right, we've talked about a whole lot of different things. So now let's drill down into how are you going to do this? Because we've talked about 3 major areas that you can focus. And I want to give you some ideas and just share with you what's working. And yes, I know we're going to be running over. So if you have to bail from the call today, we will be sending out this recording as an email after the event. If you do not want to receive the email, then please message Chris and let him know, because we want to make sure that we're not spamming anybody. The other thing also is, if you do not want to be included with your contact info for sending it out just to the group that's on the call today, please let us know that as well, because we want to make sure that we do everything we can in order to help people connect where and how they would like to be connected, and we don't do anything that makes you uncomfortable. Now let's talk about how you're going to execute on these three concepts, because we've talked about three concepts, which is expanding platinum relationships, engaging with new gold clients and growing those, and then referral partnerships. And I'll tell you that the three primary areas that you can focus on growing your business right now, they all involve creating campaigns, which is that ongoing communication. Remember that, and this is just an interesting study that came up every year. I love looking at the record or the reports that are talking about what the most effective marketing strategies were for the year. And consistently, email marketing is at the very top of the list. And at the beginning of the year, it was a 40-to-1 ROI. And at the beginning of this year, it is 42-to-1. So creating email campaigns and communication around whatever that offer is or what you're doing is one of the most important elements that you can incorporate into your prospecting. And this is where marketing and prospecting are hand in hand. It's a cohesive relationship. So when you think about a campaign is multiple touches. Each one has got to deliver immense, extraordinary value. It has to be something that people walk away after reading the message and say, that was worth my time. Much like our goal today is to create impact and help you make more money next week, that's what you have to think about. We don't want it to be promotional or salesy, because anytime you do that, you are no longer authentic or genuine. You may be genuine in your desire to make a sale, but if you're not genuine in your desire to make an impact, that's the messaging that is so critically important right now with your campaigns that you're doing. That other thing that we talked about earlier, which is that limited time offer, events are phenomenal right now. So whether it's a town hall meeting or a webinar that you're offering, or perhaps it's a virtual happy hour, there are so many people doing amazing things right now with these daily drinks with leaders. And Randy Powell is doing one that is just absolutely phenomenal, of where he features a leader weekly that talks about something extraordinary that they've done in their lives and how, what key decisions they made. So you walk away from that conversation just feeling so good about human beings and what people can do. So those events are phenomenal opportunities to engage. And then, of course, creating content. I cannot emphasize enough how important the regular distribution of high value content is right now. And these are a lot of different things that we're talking about. The thing that's really important for you to recognize is that ideally your buyer journey with your contacts will never end, because the buyer journey should not be about me ever selling you something. It should be about how can I best be a resource that serves you and makes your life better. And when you shift your perspective and you think about the buyer journey from that way, it's just a lot more fun. And you can accomplish so much more with your relationships by doing that. And that's why I want you thinking about, even if it's a phenomenal client that you have all the business available that you can serve them with, if there is still a problem to be solved, they need to view you as that resource that will solve it for them. And with that, as we're wrapping up, if I've given you a whole lot of ideas and you're thinking, wow, that's a lot and I don't know where to start. And Chris and I would love to help you with being your cruise director on your prospecting journey over 2021. And yes, we can go cruising and we will be socially distant and sanitize appropriately. We're all good with that. We do have a cohort that is kicking off next week, and we would love to include you in that. We'll share, Chris, could you share the link in the questions
I will.
so that they can see where they can go check it out, because we would absolutely love to have them as a part of our journey. And there are several folks who are on our conversation today that are actually in my prospecting community. And I want to say thanks for hopping in and getting some ideas again today. Now, one other resource that I want to let you all know about in your business is the Women's Business Center is one of those organizations that we shared a lot of information about early in the year. And they have access to so many phenomenal resources right now that are incredibly helpful for people and businesses. So I encourage you to check out the other webinars and other topics that are coming up in their entrepreneurship series. And you do not have to be just a woman in order to participate. And I'm not going to make a comment about the memes that are circulating social media about women versus, yeah. Anyway,
there's no such thing as just a woman. I'm sorry, there's not.
Absolutely. See, look at you, and this is why you're my partner. So, all right. So make sure that you do hop in on the upcoming events that we have coming up. And then Chris and I, here are the conversations or the contact methods that you can reach us or connect with the Women's Business Center. We would love to serve where and how we possibly can.